Bloom began back in 1987, and over many, many years, we've been able to help children through our foster care program. We're a licensed accredited foster care agency, through the Bloom University training program, where we provide the tools that foster families need to parent traumatized children, as well as the Bloom Closet, which is a cost-free clothing boutique where we provide free clothing and daily living essentials to children all across the state of Georgia. We reach one child at a time, and one of the stories that stands out so much in my mind is the story of Miss Georgia Watty, who committed to raising her two foster grandchildren, Jasmine and Walter.
I met my foster mom when I was really young, like really early on. Not long after we had Walter, I remember my mother being very sick. And about 2 years later, I remember I was 7 years old and she ended up passing. With my foster grandmother knowing basically, that my mother didn't have much time, I know for a fact that she had promised her that she would do her best to take care of us.
Those children were loved beyond measure by Miss Georgia, and she showed it in every opportunity that she afforded to them.
The first time I met Georgia Watty was back in 2009 when we had actually just started up the Bloom Closet. She was one of the original Bloom Closet shoppers.
Our first time going to Bloom, I remember I was getting ready to go into high school that year, and it was big to, be in style and have all the latest looks. So when I was actually able to go and find things that were nice and in style and, that actually fit, I was really excited. It was a really happy experience for me.
For me, I want to say that Bloom, it really wasn't necessarily the clothes. I wouldn't say it was more like the community of the Bloom Closet was kind of the more important thing to me at the time.
The Bloom Closet made sure the children had everything they needed. And it was so helpful because it was free. The Bloom Closet was a blessing, not only for the foster kids, but I say for the whole state of Georgia.
One of the things that we're able to do here at Bloom is to connect our families with resources. And one of the places that we connected Walter to was Camp Windshape. We were able to get him a scholarship there. That is one of my favorite stories, was taking Walter to Camp Windshape. It was just so touching watching Miss Georgia see him off to camp. It was like 95 degrees outside. She had her walker. She went straight up the side of a mountain with her walker. She was determined that everything was taken care of, that he was onboarded into the cabin. When Walter was approaching his teenage years, Miss Georgia's health began to decline. And so it was becoming an issue, like how was a woman that was well into her late 80s now raising a teenage boy. And we were able to connect Miss Georgia and Walter to Windshape Homes. And that's where he met Chris and Alicia.
I ended up living with Chris and Alicia, Windshape Homes. Lived there all the way from middle school through high school. Enjoyed every part of that. Did everything I really wanted to do, like what Nana put me there to do. Nana wanted me to be like in a secure home, mainly with like a father figure. Chris and Alicia, obviously they stepped in and become mom and dad. That's the biggest impact on my life, just being there for when I need someone.
We had an empty space that Walter was able to fill, and it provided that connection, that bridge, and we are forever grateful to Bloom for that.
So Walter had started a job, and he was running fiber optic, working as a lineman down in Florida.
And one day on the job, a power line ends up falling down over the arm of my truck, bucket truck. And my guy's up in the bucket, and I don't end up realizing the power line has fallen over the arm of the truck. So I end up going around under the bottom and touching the lower controls to where you can lower the boom down, and I end up electrocuting myself.
He had burns to 75% of his body, and he had to be life flighted to Gainesville, Florida, to be in the burn ICU there.
When Walter woke up from his accident, the first person that he called for was Miss Georgia, who at the time was living in an assisted living facility in Virginia.
When I spoke with Miss Georgia on the phone, she was really clear she was headed to Florida.
Against the advice of all of her friends, including myself, she moved to where Walter was to be with him during his recovery.
When I would call her, she would be sitting by his bedside. She stayed there overnight with Walter.
She was there every day. And from then on, she was there and there and there. And she kept coming no matter what. She just never stopped.
So when Miss Georgia passed away last December, she was able to have great peace, knowing that Chris and Alicia would be there for Walter and Jasmine as their family for the rest of their lives.
That's what's so beautiful about an organization like Bloom that's coming in to fill that gap and to reach those families that are in need, whether they're foster parents taking care of kids or their grandparents raising their grandkids. Georgia is full of Walters and Jasmines and Nanas. And it's beautiful that there are programs like Bloom that can take those stories and be a part of the bigger story of meeting needs and making connections for them.
Bloom has had a crazy impact on my life. Everyone who's made Bloom possible or given to Bloom, I just want to say thank you.
As someone that has been given so much by Bloom, it's just made such an impact on my life. Definitely continue to give. Each gift impacts a family's life. I just want to say thank you to everyone.